Montage. 3 women in front of a huge Baroque painting make animated gestures. Man paints a clay ship. 3 people, one in a wheelchair, relax in an otherwise empty theatre. Man with eyes closed feels a set piece from a play. Title: Access for All. Philip Patston, Managing Director, Diversity New Zealand.
Arts is important to culture and society in general, and disabled people are part of that. And so if a group of people don't have access to that, they miss out on participating in society in general. I think that if, as people with access needs, we're not out there in audiences or on the stage or whatever, or putting our work on the walls or looking at art galleries. If we're not there, people will forget about us. If there's no perceived reason to do anything differently, people won't do it differently.
Philip outside in wheelchair.
I find that when I go places regularly, and one of my favourite places to go is Q Theatre in Queen Street, people get to know me. They know that I need a score in my wine, and so as I become more known, the way I get treated becomes better and better.
Paul Brown.
I go to anything that's audio described. If I don't think it's going to be accessible, I don't bother. So I'm always more keen to go if I hear that things are audio described, because I assume that the venue or the festival's kind of thought about how a blind person would access stuff.
Nicola Owen.
What advice would you give to blind people who've never tried audio description?
Oh, give it a go. It will change things immensely. I mean, it enables us to really know what's going on. I mean, to know that somebody's overheard someone talking about them can change the whole nature of a play. And I think I learn something new every time I go to an audio described performance. I learn something about theatre or costumes or lighting, things that as a blind person I haven't seen and don't know much about. I learn something about them every time I go to an audio described performance.
The stage of the musical Cats.
And I'm a huge fan of touch tours. I think that the touch tour really helps to build an audio described show. So touch tour is normally before or after. I prefer before, but before or after the show we get onto the stage.
One thing to note about it is that all the items are oversized because they're in proportion to the cats. So everything's about 3 times as the size of a real one.
There are 3 stairways up to the stage that are all a little bit crooked. So we can go up the different stairways and there'll be, just take care going up them.
So you get an idea what that space is like, you get to feel some of the props, you get to, find out how the set's laid out, all that kind of stuff. And for some things, quite importantly, you get to hear if they're around the actors' voices. So even before the show starts, you've got a handle on who's who.
There's a song where 2 sets of dogs, they pretend to be 2 different sets of dogs and face off against each other. So if you feed down, you can feel that a little bit further down at eye holes.
The mask is made of trash.
Yeah. So a bit further, there you go.
Whoa.
And there's a nose, yeah.
Oh my God.
And then to your left, there's another one as well. And so there's the strap that would go around their chin. And then that big long bit sticks out over there. So this is the way they would hold it just before they put it on.
Further up.
It's an oversized rubbish bin.
I'm just going to lift it. Yeah. And a cat uses that.
As a home?
Yeah, as a home. So he pops up from underneath it.
Cool. Blind patrons receive their headsets and earpieces.
I have your headset here for you.
Brill, thank you very much.
Right, that with the soft is your earpiece, okay? Mm-hmm. Now we have turned it on, it's on channel 1.
Audience enter.
We've done our best to describe as much of the relevant action as possible without obscuring the important song lyrics. But one thing that will help you is to realise that much of the time, especially during the many character stories, the onstage action is simply a heightened acting out of the lyrics that are being sung.
Car headlights sweep across the audience onto the stage and catch a cat mid-stride. The cat spins, bats its ears with its paws in panic and zips out of sight. The moon glows dim above the junkyard.
An elevator descends. On the street, there's gold lettering on a building, Isaac Theatre Royal. Inside the foyer, a cameraman and boom operator exit a glass elevator. They're followed closely by Jared Flitcroft, filmmaker, and Leechin Heng, PhD candidate. She's in a wheelchair. Jared is now seated. Moko cover both his forearms. He gestures using New Zealand Sign Language. It's my passion, really. That's why I do it. I love making films. I think it's really, really important to show different perspectives within the films. I think with art, with access to art, of utmost importance is having an interpreter. It's really important. Deaf people really need the communication. We want to know, like for example, the theatre, we need interpreting so we can get the show. Or in an art gallery, if a person's talking about the art, then we need that told to us through an interpreter. If there's no interpreter, then it's just hopeless. Communication is very important. I love having access to art, and it's very good when we have someone there to interpret for us. And if there are movies or TV shows, subtitles are very important as well. Extremely important, so we can see and understand clearly what's being said. A desolate, dirt-covered vacant lot with a falling down fence. A real estate for sale sign on Gloucester Street. Subtitle: in the aftermath of the Christchurch earthquakes, the Isaac Theatre Royal was rebuilt. As they were starting from scratch, the theatre trustees were able and willing to undergo a process of extensive consultation and create a venue with access for all. Neil Cox, Chief Executive, Isaac Theatre Royal.
A theatre is a space for the community, and it always has been since it was built in 1908. It's a space for the community. I think the experience that we try to create is that once you walk through the doors, that you can forget everything else, and once you're inside the auditorium and you're watching a show, that's meant to take you away. And then people talk, you know, you gather in the bars and you gather in the foyers and you have a chat. So why should that only be available to certain parts of the community? It should be available to everyone.
Jared Flitcroft.
Okay, so guys ready? Action.
While filming in the foyer, Jared races to open the theatre door for Leechin Heng.
One of the key things with the foyer situation was being able to get patrons up to every level of the theatre through those doors over there, which is the dress circle doors. We have wheelchair seating in there now on the first floor, which is quite unique for venues in New Zealand. So elevator access gives you that. It's a very simple, accessible path through into the theatre.
So this is
Matthias Mard, Technical Manager, Isaac Theatre Royal.
you get a pretty good view from here onto stage.
Leechin Heng.
Much better view. Yeah, it's really amazing. Yes, even if someone's sitting in front of me.
Yeah, because it's tiered seating, right? So
You all stand over here and have a look.
Yes, please.
So, someone stand over here.
It's still better than down there.
I'll stay the same. I think your view will be much better here than
better here too, yeah.
Yeah,
down here.
even for everyone.
They're in the gods.
So shall we go on stage?
Yeah.
You want to?
Go for it.
I'll see you dance.
Got two left feet.
Philip Patston.
Ironically, the best customer service is the service that you don't notice. And so I think in a way, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for venues where people can go and not notice what's been done for them or how they've been treated.
Jared and Leechin being shown around the stage.
I'm going to turn it on. It's 6 stories high.
Jared has a sign language interpreter.
The whole system is movable.
Does this stage go down or?
The front part of the stage goes down. You see where the ribbon is?
You know, the whole value that, you know, is put into, you know, welcoming people, making them feel included, and, you know, that everyone can actually come in and enjoy a show like everyone else. I think that whole value is really awesome.
I think that the good thing about being focused on access and accessibility is that you create a better experience for everybody.
Philip exits a building in his electric wheelchair, gliding comfortably down a ramp. Big bold black words on a white background. Think differently. Arts Access Aotearoa, Whakahoho Katoa Ohanga. Chamber Music New Zealand. Music by Trio Amistad. You heard the voices of Philip Patston, Managing Director, Diversity New Zealand; Paul Brown, Disability Consultant, Audio Described Aotearoa; Nicola Owen, Audio Describer and Trainer, Audio Described Aotearoa; Carl Smith, Audio Describer; Kevin Keys, Audio Describer; Neil Cox, Chief Executive, Isaac Theatre Royal; Jared Flitcroft, Filmmaker; Leechin Heng, PhD Candidate; Matthias Mard, Technical Manager, Isaac Theatre Royal.